Inside the Deck is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, sellers of Magic the Gathering and many other card and board games. GatheringMagic.com, your #1 resource on Magic the Gathering, strategy, and culture.
Hey, the handsome devil you're looking at right now is me, Jon Corpora. I write for GatheringMagic.com. I played 52 FNMs in 1 year, but today you'll be watching my video tournament report of Grand Prix Atlantic City. For Grand Prix Atlantic City, I decided to play Bant Life. It is a blue, white, green standard deck, and how it works is I gain a ton of life and then win behind a Chalice of Life or a Garruk Primal Hunter. The idea of a given Bant deck in standard is to draw the game out with life gain to a point where you have inevitability and all your spells are just better. And what this Bant deck does in particular is it gains a lot of life in all 3 phases of the game. You start off on Centaur Healer, which turns into Chalice of Life, and 2 Centaur Healers or a Centaur Healer and a Restoration Angel will ensure that your Chalice of Life flips almost immediately. Then in the mid portion of the game, you have Rhox Faithmender and possibly Trostani Selesnya's Voice. And those 2 in conjunction can gain massive amounts of life, almost putting an aggressive deck completely out of reach. Control matchups are difficult, but you have Chalice of Death for the reach, Sphinx's Revelation so you're not drawing less cards than them, and Garruk Primal Hunter as a card that they have limited interactions with. The mana base is pretty straightforward. I need 5 different playsets of dual lands just because it's a 3-color deck and it's very mana hungry. I need lots of colors on any given turn, so I need to be able to make them all as fast as I can. In my sideboard, my control suite, the cards I always bring in against every control deck: 2 Tamiyo the Moon Sage, 2 Detention Sphere, 3 Negate, and a Ray of Revelation. Rootborn Defenses is pretty good against the aggressive decks. It's a little under the radar. If an aggressive deck attacks into my creatures thinking he's going to get a lot of trades, I can cast Rootborn Defenses and it'll be my creatures killing his. Rest in Peace is there for not only the Reanimator strategies, but also the blue, white, red flash decks that are around that depend on their graveyard a lot. Terminus is there for the more aggressive decks and also mid-range. Mid-range has a lot of big creatures that I have a problem dealing with, Olivia Voldaren being the chief concern, and so that is my sideboard. The reason I chose Bant Life over any other deck, any other well-known, well-established standard deck right now, is because I think it attacks the format from a unique angle, let's say. Instead of trying to be aggressive or be mid-range or mill you, I am gaining 50 life. And there are a lot of decks that just can't deal with a deck gaining 50 life. I do give up a little ground against control, because control doesn't really care if I gain life or not, but I'm fairly positive that Chalice of Death and Garruk Primal Hunter really shore up that control matchup. I think I'm in a good spot for the weekend, so let's see how I do.
Good morning and welcome to Grand Prix Atlantic City. We have 1,646 players here today. All right, we want players. You have 50 minutes, you may begin.
A Grand Prix is a multi-day event. The first day is open to the public. The second day is based on your performance with a record of X2 or better in most cases. Today there are 9 rounds, and we're actually playing 1 round of tomorrow's event today. So we're playing 10 total rounds of Swiss Magic. In order to make day 2, a player is going to perform very well. Out of these 1,600 players, only about 150 are going to make the cut over to day 2 by having a record of X2 or better.
I'm going to gain 6. Yep, 24, and cast Farseek. It's going to be for a Hallowed Fountain, and then it'll be your turn. So, round 1, I play against a very stock red, white, green deck. Do you ever get jitters going into a big tournament, like you're nervous for no good reason? I get the jitters a lot. I don't play in big tournaments as much as I'd like. And I say this because in game 1, I flip a Chalice of Life very early, but miss an activation of Chalice of Death. The game ends with him miracling a Bonfire of the Damned, killing all my creatures and putting me at dead the next turn. He's at 17. My hand is exactly one Selesnya Charm, so I cast it on his end step, making a 2/2, and activate Chalice of Death, putting him to 12. On my turn, I draw, attack with my 2/2, putting him to 10, and activate my Chalice of Death, which leaves him at 5 life, exactly equivalent to the activation I'd missed. I then mold a 5 in game 2, and that's enough for him to take the match. In round 2, I play against a guy piloting his own brew, a red-green deck sporting Deadly Recluses, Wanvuli Beast Trackers to get Silklash Spider, Daybreak Ranger, Street Spasm, Increasing Savagery, and Falkenrath Exterminator. Strange combination of cards. I then proceed to win by populating Restoration Angels. He gets me game 2 with an Increasing Savagery on a Strangle Rootgeist that I can't deal with, and I win a tight game 3 despite casting Sphinx's Revelation for 1 card, which I did to keep a Daybreak Ranger from flipping, so I'm okay with it. I'm paired against the black-green deck for round 3, the one that pro player Brian Kibler made famous. Games 1 and 3 I get run over by dudes too quickly and lose the match, but game 2 was my favorite. I'm able to populate Rhox Faithmender and my opponent concedes when the exponential math gets too hard, so that was fun. With 2 match losses in my back against the wall, I play against a blue-white-black control deck that is very dedicated to the mill plan. Game 1, my first 2 plays are 2 Chalice of Life, followed by a Thragtusk. He's dead when he can't find a Detention Sphere before the Chalices of Death kill him. I stumble on mana game 2 and lose to a Jace Memory Adept. In our 3rd game, I have him at 1 life, and he's got a Jace Memory Adept and a Detention Sphere with 2 of my Restoration Angels under it. He eventually mills me for my Singleton Ray of Revelation. I flash it back targeting Detention Sphere, get my 2 Restoration Angels back, and attack him for the win. Against Rakdos in round 5, I have the unstoppable Rhox Faithmender Thragtusk Cackling Counterpart draw, which lets me stabilize long enough to cast a couple of backbreaking Sphinx's Revelations and put the game out of his reach. Games 2 and 3, however, I keep very similar hands. I keep both times, I get duly punished, and am knocked out of the tournament. GPs nowadays are massive. Just imagine FNM and then multiply it by 150. Checking pairings is a nightmare. Basic concepts of hygiene seem to be lost on roughly 65% of these men. So why do we do it? Life has a way of hiding where you measure up. Magic's a lot simpler than that. You get to see how you measure up in very clear terms. I feel comfortable with my deck choice, but I made some questionable keeps late in the tournament and was punished. I ended up alongside about 1,500 people that didn't make day 2. I could probably take some comfort in that if I wanted to, but that's not good enough for me. And I'll definitely be back.